Well, 16 October is World Food Day. Now, the World Bank predicting food production will decrease by 7% due to COVID-19 and climate change. And even if food is available, it's too expensive for many. This year, World Food Day is being marked under the theme Grow, Nourish, Sustain Together. Our actions are our future. Now, let's discuss the efforts with Brian Nell from Rise Against Hunger Africa. Brian, good morning. Ordinarily on such a day in the past, we'll be dealing with what you'd regard as the usual challenge of lack of food. But COVID-19 has exacerbated the situation. How bad is hunger in our country?
Hi, good morning, Dan. Yeah, it's certainly, as you say, the whole coronavirus has certainly exacerbated the problem. You know, before coronavirus hit our shores, we had over 13 million people who were food insecure. And there are some figures out there at the moment say that figure is now close to 30 million people. So sort of 2 out of every 5 households, don't have enough food.
Yeah, and one of the things that I learned yesterday is that most of the hungry people in our country live in and around urban areas. But that is where food is produced. That is where we have the factories that produce the food, and we've got supermarkets, and it should be available, but it's costing too much.
Yeah, I think, with all the situation that we've been through, it's certainly driven the prices a lot higher. But there is a big move to create sustainable gardens and what have you back out in sort of townships and surrounding areas to try and alleviate that. And another sort of highlight that has really come out of this whole pandemic is that we need to create sustainable communities, and starting off there with sustainable vegetable gardens, creating markets within these communities, and there's certainly a big price difference there, and that should certainly help the situation.
Yeah, it should help to a point, though, vegetable gardens, Brian, because you still need a good source of protein.
Yeah, that's correct, Dan. But it's a sort of a starting point. There are various community sort of upliftment programs that are going on at the moment. So whether it could be chicken coops or small scale farming, and I think small scale farming is really key to alleviate this problem.
Yeah, now you as Rise Against Hunger Africa, you operate not just in South Africa, but for a day like this, what are you busy with? What are your people on the ground doing for those who need the food today?
Well, I think the main thing is just to keep up that awareness. During the pandemic, a lot of people said that, we were reminded of the huge problem that we already have in this country. And of course, this has shone a spotlight on it especially through the lockdown. And the important thing for us is to maintain that awareness around the problem. So we're having various activations in Cape Town, Durban, and here in Johannesburg. In Johannesburg, we're going out to visit one of our early childhood development centers in partnership with Tastic Rice. And we've got a celebrity chef coming who's going to cook for them. So the main thing for us is to really drive that awareness home and to keep the momentum that has been built up, especially through the lockdown, around the need of food and the food insecurity we have in South Africa.
Yeah, as you say there, Brian, there's a heightened awareness now due to the coronavirus pandemic that we have a huge problem with food insecurity in this country. And in fact, one of the guests I had yesterday here on ENC, we spent an hour between 9 and 10 focusing on food security and hunger. One of the guests was talking about the need for food sovereignty and pointing out that, in fact, our Constitution has a section, I think it's in Section 27, that we have a right to food, and more people now are raising that as a challenge and demanding fundamental and radical systemic change to the food system. What would the view of Rise Against Hunger be? Do you agree that we need a food system change?
Most definitely, Dan. Over the last couple of years, our president has mentioned in his SONA addresses around the whole 2030, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. But we still haven't seen a comprehensive plan. And we really need a comprehensive plan with all stakeholders, all those who are involved with food and nutrition to come together and to work out a plan on how we can eradicate hunger. I really believe it is possible to meet that 2030 goal in South Africa. The pandemic has certainly set us back. But, you know, we need a plan. It needs to be headed up from government and led by government. And it needs to be, you know, sort of inclusive of everybody in that space. And then we can address the problem. You know, if you have a look at still up to 30% of all the food that South Africa produces, you know, ends up in landfills and goes to waste. The need to generate more community projects, you know, and the need to work together. You know, during the lockdown, we saw a lot of almost over-resource in certain areas and total lack of assistance in other areas. And this is because people are not working together. And that's what we really need to do. We need to get this down.
And you know, Brian, listening to you makes sense that we need a plan. But I pointed out yesterday to the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, here on ENC, that she was saying government has got plans, but it's multi-sectoral. You've got different departments. You've got land and agriculture, because you need that in that equation. You've got people then who deal with the health side in terms of nutrition that you've mentioned. Then you've got schools, feeding schemes, you've got education. But the plans are there. We're going to need another plan. It looks like we are very awful when it comes to implementation of these plans.
Yeah, certainly. And as the Minister alluded to, it's a very complex thing. Ending hunger has many facets to it. So, but we need more communication. And the one good thing out of the pandemic that we saw amongst NGOs is, as NGOs, we started to work together and to see which areas were under-resourced and which areas, you know, needed more and who could work where. So, you know, collaboration is starting to come out. And I think that's something else we need to continue building on. The start of especially in the NGO sector, working together to meet the cause and to make a bigger impact. But something needs, as you say, action needs to be taken. And for me, the first thing is to involve everybody, and let's, you know, start talking, communicating, and having a look at who can function where and who can do what best.
Thank you very much, Brian Nell from Rise Against Hunger Africa on this World Food Day.